Welcome to the show, episode 11, coming off our highest ratings week, episode 10. What do you think about that, Chase?
Everybody wants to get into round trip and revenue.
So round trip and revenue, I get it. 100 bill for you, 100 bill for me. Nothing actually happens.
A little here, a little there. I will say, Jensen, who we were talking about for people who didn't listen last week, the triangle of NVIDIA funding OpenAI buying from Oracle buying from NVIDIA, and the world spinning around. He did go on a podcast to defend it called BG2. I didn't walk away more confident.
And that's Gurley and Gerstner, right?
It was just Gerstner, and then Gurley. For people who don't know, Brad Gerstner and Bill Gurley are tech investors, very successful tech investors. And Gurley wasn't on the show, and he was tweeting, being like, I wish they wouldn't do this. So I think we have a house divided over at BG2. But anyway, on with the show.
I love that. Okay, before we get started, we're going to keep the format going like we had. We're going to start with commercial real estate, then we'll go to quantum, then we'll hit AI and a big one, and then one more bit of news. But there were a couple of stories and some feedback I want to get out of the way. In true Instagram fashion, we just went through our Instagram analytics. It's like something like 2 million views a week at this point, but that's not true at all. But we did get some additional comments. Boston venture capitalist Sarah Hodges responded to me and just said, "What happened to your shirt?" I don't even know what that means. I was wearing the Stars and Stripes. She just didn't provide any additional context. And then two other stories that we don't have time to talk about, but I wanted to bring them up anyways. Number one was Elon Musk just hit 500 billion net worth. So he's the first person to ever hit 500 billion. And then number two, I'll let you respond to these in a second. Number two, which I thought was crazy, there are more PE firms than McDonald's. There's 19,000 PE firms and 14,000 McDonald's. Is that a bubble?
Pop.
The snack wrap is back. So and I'm a big snack wrap guy. So I see McDonald's going maybe to 19K, but that's a lot of private equity funds. Woo.
We should look at the food trends more broadly, but hamburgers versus alternatives, I don't know. That worries me a little bit.
Dude, you got to hit with the McRib and the snack wrap.
Now the question is, how many PE firms own McDo's franchises?
Ooh. Love that. All right.
Welcome to the Quantum City Initiative, a show about the most important stories, ideas at the intersection of AI, cities, real estate, and the leaders shaping the future of how and where we live and work. Do you save and reinvigorate cities, or are you building new ones?
What is most critical for cities in the future with the sort of AI factory race that we're in? All right. One more thing before we get started. Strata's coming up again, October 16th. Quick plug here. We got speakers from Goldman Sachs, Grosvenor, Bedrock Detroit, Travis Kalanick from Uber, and Cloud Kitchens and Picnic will be there headlining the conference. We have Joe Pine also there. Attendees, executives from Alexandria, Tishman, RXR, Heinz, Vornado, Related, Primea. We got folks flying in. It's going to be a great event. Chase, anything else before a little quick plug here before we get going?
Look forward to seeing people there.
Could be a good time. VIP reception the night before. Okay. First story of the day, quantum, commercial real estate section. We've talked a lot about this. There's an AI trend boom that's happening. It's pouring billions, trillions of dollars into data centers, industrial data centers. However, they might not be the best investment. What we're starting to see here is that there's a little bit of a liquidity crunch, a little bit of a liquidity trap. Developers are struggling to cash out on the big tech data centers that they poured all their money in. We talked about it. America loves a gold rush, but there might not be the ability to get your money out of these things. What do you think, Chase?
This is exemplary of what we talk about with regards to real estate experience. So I'll try to go through a few points quickly on this. So first and foremost, when you run with the herd, if it's not your specialty and area of expertise, you're always going to be at risk of getting burned. I talk about this every week with regards to people running into lab when they don't have expertise in lab, people running from office when their expertise is in office to other categories because they think the macro is better. Mm-hmm. I'm going to continue to pound the table. I just can't believe from an investor perspective, there needs to be, I think, some evolution in commercial real estate investors, institutional investors with commercial real estate exposure. There needs to be significantly more scrutiny that this, first and foremost, it's an alternative. It's not kind of like some of your other securities that you might be buying. The operators in the space are super critical. If you have tenant relationships and if you have operations that are designed for tenant relationships and success in a certain asset class, you're very simply going to outperform. So I think this follows the overall real estate experience trend that obviously we've devoted our company to. Secondarily, I had a conversation with a group that bought a data center platform, and they were thinking about this in a very smart way that I think was very nuanced and in tune with what we're going to see happening in data center, which is they were looking for the right mix of commercial real estate expertise to run the platform, as well as tech expertise that came from the set of tenants, because this is not going to be a super diversified tenant base in a lot of ways. It's going to be a lot of big tech companies that are the ones powering the data centers. So those are sophisticated demand side players. They've got a ton of leverage, they got a ton of money, and they will squeeze you like crazy on lease terms, which I think you're going to talk about. If you have people that know how to navigate those organizations and really know how to manage the life cycle of the tenant relationship, not just, hey, we have one data center in what we think is a good location, but really, do you understand OpenAI, Oracle, Microsoft, whoever it is that you think you're selling to? Do you understand that account in a more holistic way? I think that's the only way you're not going to get burned, because they get pretty good terms from a tenant perspective, and you can get upside down on these things.
One of the things you were talking about was just one of the quotes I think we're talking about is just Warren Buffett's, be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. He's done well, so I like that. There's a parallel there. I was on a panel prep call this morning for Strata, and I won't tell you who the developer is, but what he was talking about, we were talking about upgrading infrastructure in cities. And their thesis is they are not investing in what he called traditional commercial real estate. So I poked on that, and we're doing a little prep call, so I want to get to know him a little bit more. What does he consider traditional commercial real estate? Traditional commercial real estate is what you think of it. It's commercial, it's industrial, and it's retail in their own boxes and mixed use in its own. What these guys are doing is they're actually taking multiple floors in downtown towers in Manhattan, Boston, et cetera, your Class A, traditional Class A towers, and they're just putting data centers and AI powering directly in them. And so the way he's thinking about it is that is how infrastructure is going to change. So he is not bullish, and this firm is not bullish on these mega campuses. And I think probably for these reasons, probably there's a liquidity crunch, the margins might not be there, and they're starting to come up with traditional sort of investment vehicles and putting it to CMBSs and whatnot. But his take is, as we think about the shift and how people are utilizing cities as a whole, you're going to see more and more industrial and AI powered and digital infrastructure or physical infrastructure in your standard tower. So in the South Station Tower or in Penn 1, you're going to have a couple of floors that you might never know. You're going to skip right past them in the elevator bank. That is going to be a massive either power bank, generating power for these, or your sort of gigawatt or your data center factories. I thought that was very interesting.
I think that's the underlying trend of the box has to be dynamic. The box has to be multi-purpose. So if people want to work in the box and the box is the building, there needs to be certain areas of work. There needs to be a lot of different SKUs, if you will, in terms of types of workspace. There needs to be the appropriate infrastructure, data center and AI factory infrastructure is obviously one type, but there's food infrastructure, there's experience infrastructure, which is, I think most people talk about amenity centers in that sense. I think this is going to have implications up and down the complete supply chain and the ecosystem of everything from architects and construction firms, how they need to think about flexibility within buildings, to how we design these things. It's very exciting because if you get it right, I think there's a ton of alpha to be made, but it's hard. it's definitely hard.
Yeah, and listen, I think the big trend here and a lot of the conversation is that these are not your your quick flips, liquidity events, and you got traditional developers that are focused. You have some that are long and strong, long holds, right? And I think that's really where this comes in. If we are as bullish as a society and an industry on artificial intelligence in these data centers, there's no issue with the demand and the need for these. So these can be wonderful investments, but they're just a coupon clipper and you're going to have to hold it for a long time. The leases are long. Like you were saying, the tech companies are stable, but the margins aren't as high and you're going to have a tough time flipping them. So I think that's really what it nets out. It's just the type of investor is going to be a little bit different.
Well, and I think our friends over at Hines just published an article kind of backing up what you're saying. They analyzed a bunch of different data across CoStar, JLL, CBRE, their own internal research, and they basically showed across different phases of the cycle: early buy, strong buy, late buy, prepare to sell, late sell, hold, and monitor. They showed across a different set of KPIs, risk multipliers, what your 5-year forward rent CAGR is, all these different metrics. They showed where in the cycle they see the least amount of risk. And it's essentially a barbell. You got to either move early or you have to be patient money. And we'll post this in the show, we'll throw the image up. But the last kind of stage, hold and monitor, the average 5-year forward unlevered returns start to creep back up to the people who nailed it early. So I think one of the issues that commercial real estate needs to rethink from kind of the top of the pyramid from a capital strategy is a lot of these groups need to act and look a lot more like patient capital. I think the long hold cycle and being able to iterate with tenants over longer periods, you both have to be faster and more nimble. But your typical, whether you want to look at it as like a 5-year development flip, like I don't think this is specific to data center. I think this is specific to operating, is where all the leverage is going to be, the tenant facing activities.
Yeah, and again, we'll see how this goes. There's going to be no shortage of fodder on this. We talk about it each show. More data comes out on this. We're going to continue to follow this trend. Obviously, as the AI wars continue to heat up. Moving on, we got 2 legal stories to touch on this week. We don't spend a ton of time talking about residential, but we know that real estate as a whole is obviously a massive industry, and residential is equally as important. We saw rates getting cut. You're starting to see mortgage applications for homes start to pick up. However, now you're starting to see there are some states now suing Zillow and Redfin over alleged antitrust deal. Now, Zillow, we know, is the big whale, and there's another legal story they got themselves into, which we'll talk about the second one. Basically, what they're saying is that they're reducing competition, and Zillow's effectively putting everybody out of business. Call it from brokers to Redfin to everybody else. What's your take on this monopoly against Zillow and sort of where the residential real estate world's going to go? Is it Zillow's world?
We've talked about this in the past when I think we covered some of what BlackRock was doing, some of the bigger investment platforms buying up residential at scale as one of the forces driving up housing costs.
And so what they were doing, let's double click on that one, because that is a terrifying trend that got a lot of feedback on the show. BlackRock is going in and just buying up single family neighborhoods. What a trend there is that the developer will come in, your neighbor, the developer, construction guy will build a house, and the 2 bidders against it is going to be your friend down the street and then BlackRock.
And I think where we landed on that one is there needs to be nuance between the free market needs to operate, and just because money is organized and you have professional investors doesn't mean throwing a ton of regulation at it is the solution to bringing down costs for what I think is a multi-dimensional issue, right? So I think this is one of the issues. Clearly, if these platforms were doing what they're accused of doing, which was basically calling dibs on different geos and making sure that prices don't get too competitive. So that's a huge issue. I think the other issue comes in the form of NIMBYism and too much local regulation. And then I think if you peel back the onion on those 2 things, you can really start to figure out if there's open competition and there's organized large institutional money competing for single family resi against the likes of the average family, what is the real impact there? If there's a lot of competition on that front, there should be rental rates being driven down. But I worry a little bit about the hot potato of, if BlackRock's buying, they're so big, where's the exit? Who at some point their fund needs to exit those properties. Who's the buyer? So
You got 19,000 other private equity firms out there, like we talked about on the show.
yeah.
They're going to need to deploy some capital. Yeah.
And then they become too small to fail. It's like the small PE needs a bailout. I don't know. So I think this is a super nuanced and complicated issue. We said we're going to continue to come back to it. I don't believe in the housing shortage crisis. When you look at the census numbers, I think it's quality, proximity to economic opportunity. I think there's overregulation. This one seems like an obvious fix. If it's true, then I don't know if they would consider this collusion or not, but this is one hopefully that they undo, and these guys have to compete on price.
I think there just needs to be a disruption. MLS, as archaic as that system is, still runs the show. And then again, I think Zillow also is where most people, I think, find their listings, because the consumer experience is way better than clicking those random blue links in MLS. But there needs to be a change here, and we're starting to see some changes, right? The actual fees that brokers could take was changed. That was a sort of groundbreaking ruling. And I don't know, I think the resi market as a whole and how brokers, there's too many private equity firms, there's too many residential real estate brokers as well, but it's one man's take. Legal story. So in PropTech, we like to make jokes, I guess, a little bit about CoStar's strategy. CoStar's strategy is very litigious, and they continue on. They have crushed competition because they continue to win. I think wasn't there a story, Chase, where you were on the phone and was threatened at one point by CoStar?
I was not on a call. They've gotten, I respect the hell out of how they handled Business Insider during the ZERP height, when a lot of our media seemed to be finding silly stories to fill space with. Business Insider was running all these hit pieces, and they ran a hit piece on the CoStar CEO saying that he was on a call, apparently holding a gun or something like that. And they had employees say it's a hard place to work, whatever, the typical Business Insider stuff. And CoStar's PR response was basically like, what's the story? I don't understand what the issue is. So I love that. But
so yeah, they're litigious. They're suing or they're going after Zillow. They're accusing Zillow. We just talked about Zillow of stealing, quote unquote, misusing, I don't know, almost 50,000 photos. There's still some on the live site. Again, CoStar has just beaten down a handful of folks like Crexy and Delegent and similar claims. We know that they put traps in their data, specifically in the metadata. And then we also know that in their listings, the other brokerage firms have gotten into trouble because they set traps. But CoStar is the major player in this space. They have all the data. So folks want the data. So why not defend the moat, right?
It's a fascinating business case study. So on the one hand, the team at CoStar is about as good as a team can get. These guys I've met a number of the executives. They are studs. They have a much bigger enterprise than just the commercial listings business. They own a ton of platforms on the residential side. They're going hard at residential. I think they still have a lot of international growth opportunity. I haven't read their earnings in probably a year, but it's a machine. I do think the whole industry is due, and I think CoStar is strong enough to survive it, to get off this major moat of copyrighted property photos. I don't think it's best for the industry. I don't think it's great for innovation. The fact that a lot of the innovation is in tracking the photos, that made a lot of sense in the early days when CoStar was doing a lot of the work to go and take the photos. And I know they still do some of that, but oftentimes the brokerage firms are taking the photos and they're giving, as I understand it, and we'll fact check this, but I believe they give the copyright rights over when they post them to the site. So if they take the photo, they post it, they take it down, and they put it in marketing material, they're apparently liable. I don't know if there's any litigation around that anymore, but that's not great, right? So this is a heavyweight fight between CoStar and Zillow, and CoStar is going hard into Resi, so it was a matter of time.
It's the more interesting is you're talking about the strategy there, and you talk about DMCA and safe harbor, and I forget the social media content, whatever rule that is that folks talk about, or protecting, that protects the social media sites around the origination of the content, with obviously all the artificial intelligence tools that come out, and those being the new search engines. Like how can you even continue outside of just like a blatant ripoff of a photo? But now you have artificial and AI generated or AI manipulated photos. You have data that's being constantly washed through these AI tools. I think CoStar's sort of litigious strategy and how they've won and put people out of business is going away with all these tools. I don't think there's going to be much to keep up.
Maybe we'll see. This will be a good indicator.
All right, moving forward, private capital. So here's some data. Here's some good data. We like to talk about good data. And then we have one story that goes the other way. But here's some good data to start it out. Private capital is flooding back into CRE. So this is great. They're jumping on the rates coming down. Again, there's 50 basis point rate cuts predicted for the back half of the year. But fundraising surge. There's been $85 billion in private capital raised through August of this year, on pace for about $130 billion in 2025, which is a 40% jump year over year. That's obviously really good. Fundraising has been very tricky. It fell below 100 billion in 2024. It peaked at 170 billion in 2022. That's at ZERT environment, obviously, in COVID, but on pace back up to 130 billion. Big closings, Brookfield, Carlyle, we talked about those. Debt funds are booming, obviously, Blackstone. This is a great trend to see that, again, we are signaling that we are, quote unquote, at the bottom. The RXR story that we talked about last week, they like to buy low and sell high. The enterprise values have been hit. We're going to see a lot of this capital get put to work. I expect transactions to be up. Great sign for the market.
Yeah, it's a good sign. I think it'd be interesting to see what asset classes the money is focused on. But regardless, as interest rate forecasting goes, so goes fundraising for commercial real estate, because it's such a levered asset class. If I were in this space, I would want to be one of the names that had raised it in the past couple of years rather than right now. Cycles are what they are, but you see the large sophisticated folks tend to have a beat on this a little bit earlier. Blackstone, I think it was probably like somewhere between 4 to 8 quarters ago, John Gray, who's if not the smartest guy in commercial real estate, at least one of. He was out early on this again, just like they were after the great financial crisis. I think if you're not at the scale and you're not a market mover, you need to be really, really specialized in your strategy. And this is where you either have to have immense scale or you need to be true experts in your asset class.
So you're saying these guys are late?
You have all the big names up there, so they're probably all right.
I like that. All right. On the other side of it, here's a story of an office REIT that missed its $30 million debt payment, is getting delisted and in some trouble. So Office Properties Income Trust failed to make the interest payments. We've seen this before on notes, on their debt. They're being delisted. They have a 17 million square foot portfolio, mostly Class B space, mostly around DC. And their biggest tenant in DC is the federal government. We know that Mr. Musk came in as part of his Doge initiative and cut a bunch of leases. The shoe just dropped on Office Properties REIT. They're in trouble.
Yeah, this is a confluence of a bunch of tough factors. Class B, tough. Largest tenant being the federal government is tough. And I think the government shutdown certainly can't be helping this. So you got a lot of bad kind of variables lined up there. So hopefully the government comes to agreement, they get opened back up in a way that is healthy and sustainable for all. And these folks can get their debt figured out, restructured.
Yeah, or they go under. One of my favorite things to talk about on this pod is casinos. Big fan of Vegas. We're heading back to Vegas in Q1 for a conference. We talked about the New York City battle and the New York battle of casinos. People want them. Do they not want them? We got some good news this week. Resort Worlds and MGM, they cleared casino hurdles, which is great, fine, okay. But the most interesting one, and we got a couple of stories about billionaires doing great things in New York. Steve Cohen's Queens casino bid, absolutely approved. People are 100% behind it. He's working with Hard Rock. It received unanimous approval from the Queens Committee. It's an $8 billion plan, converts 50 acres of City Fields parking into a casino resort with 25 acres of green space, 5,700 seat venue, Hard Rock Hotel, major food groups, backed by $1 billion in community benefits agreements. Like, Steve Cohen doing great things for New York here.
I think there's a couple of things that point out what's shaken out here. Number one, I didn't see any of these being in Manhattan. So I think not dissimilar to the Boston area where the casino got approval up in Everett. I think the trend with a lot of metro areas is going to be put it in areas that will benefit from the development compared to the hoity-toities that will NIMBY their way out of these things.
That's a great point. There's Yonkers, there's the Bronx, there's Queens, all surrounding. And then what was it? Wynn, outside Everett, which we thought originally was an interesting spot, but that's a great point.
Yeah. And I think the other thing here is you have local people that know those neighborhoods partnering with best in class entertainment providers. So it's kind of the combo of the local clout and the world-class operators in this space seemingly targeting the right neighborhoods. So I think you'll see a lot of this around stadiums. Stadiums tend to be in areas that are not necessarily typically in like the business districts, and I would say the well-developed areas. So I would anticipate this trend. We'll see a bunch more of this in a bunch of other metros.
So I'm going to skip around a little bit. So sorry about the show notes, but we're going to stick with New York. This is an interesting little battle here between Ken Griffin and Jamie Dimon, between Citadel and JPMorgan. So Ken Griffin has a plan to build the largest tower in Midtown. Now, JPMorgan, which we've covered a couple of times, just went online with their massive HQ. It's been covered all over. The pictures are gorgeous. It's insane. Ken Griffin, not to be outdone, wants to boost his tower with Citadel anchoring about 900,000 feet of the 1.7 million square feet by about 200 feet. He just wants it to be about 200 feet taller in Midtown. We talked about the Manhattanization of Boston. The next story is about a Boston tower. What's your take on this? Again, our cities, are we back here? Midtown towers, we're seeing everybody. We're seeing the Death Star come back. Like, this is great.
I love the mine is bigger than yours battles. So I'm all for all of the billionaire heavyweights in each city should be backing who's got the biggest tower. I like that a lot.
The biggest tower.
Yep.
Now,
I think that kind of big tower energy is what the world needs right now.
We need big tower energy. That's called BTE for the kids. Now, I'm going to draw a parallel. So billionaires, we talked about this a little before. They're starting to build their own cities. So you covered this quite a bit where they're building sort of cities. Billionaires first bought islands. Now they're building cities. But this is unique. This big tower energy that we have here, they're changing the infrastructure in current cities. I like that. If you got a couple of billion, why not?
Yeah, make it better for everybody. I'm all for that.
I think we need to have a new section on the show called BTE.
It's going to be a recurring segment.
Kudos to you for just nailing big tower.
I didn't even hear that. So
I wish I came up with that. But hey, it's the beauty of the show. Big tower energy. Okay, speaking of big tower energy, in our hometown, Boston South Station Tower, gorgeous development, 51-story. Absolutely massive. Finally open for business. I got a tour of it. This is a Hines developed tower sitting on top of South Station. Drastically changes the skyline of Boston. absolutely gorgeous. They got some really good tenants. Citadel and JPMorgan, believe it or not, will be in there. FM Global, Jones Day drastically expands the South Station terminal as well, which is good. That's a lot of where transit buses come in, but not really. So none of the restaurants are ready to go. Folks haven't really moved in yet, but we saw it's going to change Boston. There's nothing like it in Boston. Yes, it's the new shiny development, but there's nothing like it after seeing it. It's special.
No, and they're following our friends at Vornado and our friends at Hines. These are two excellent groups. Vornado did an excellent job with the Penn development right on top of obviously a major transportation hub. This is the major transportation hub. I think South Station handles more people in and out than North Station. And the development is amazing. Everyone's going to benefit from the redo of the South Station terminal, which is excellent. And our friends at Suffolk, I believe, did the construction as well. So it's top class all around. And the definition of an anchor tenant is typically somewhat associated with size. I don't want to say that we were the draw for all of these tenants that they now have flocking to the building, but
we did get in early though.
All I'm saying is like people knew we wanted to be there. So are we trendsetters? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the audience.
Moving up in the world. That's where we're going to start. We'll start filming the show next year when we can actually move in, maybe from SST. That's South Station Tower for you folks. All right, let's talk prop tech. Let's get into some tech before we go into quantum. Quantum's an interesting one this week. Let's talk prop tech for a bit. MRI, kind of OG prop tech. Potential sale or IPO valuing them at 10 billion. 10 billion? What's your take on that? 10 billion. Company was founded in 1971. 10 billion. Large. We talked literally. I asked you a question. When is PropTech's next big exit? Now there's rumor. You must have known here, man. Now there's rumors of 10 billion for MRI. Too much? Too little?
Look, our whole category is a fascinating category in the sense that the fact that these folks have been around so long, I believe they were spun out of, I forget if it was, who owns TurboTax? Do you remember?
I don't know. I can Google that as we go.
But they were, I believe back in the day, these guys were spun out of a bigger tech company.
Into it.
Because anyone in their right mind is like selling software to commercial real estate's a nightmare. And they've just been chugging along. So like the leaders in our space, like it is an insular space. Yardi was started, I think, in the 80s. The platforms most people use are old platforms. It's an incredibly hard space to disrupt. And so I think it's indicative that when you get into this category, it's hard to get folks out. So I would love to see them IPO. I just spoke to some people while they have a pretty fierce battle with Yardi on the accounting front with a number of the, say, office commercial real estate groups. I was told by people who would know that MRI is cranking. I think this would be great for the space and the category. And they're good partners.
I love it. Let's get some liquidity. I'm in. It was founded by Cleveland, Ohio, Fred and Sid Goodman in 1971. They're probably going to make some money. Like that for them. Quantum story this week before we
always cheering for the Goodmans.
I don't know the Goodmans. Wish I knew the Goodmans. Maybe I don't want to get to know the Goodmans.
Only they're still in the business.
Like to know the Goodmans. They probably still got some equity. Quantum story this week before we get to AI. Got some fun ones in AI. And then, of course, one more bit of news, which is juicy, of course. Government shutdown. How does the government shutdown affect property markets? I don't know, but let's talk about it a little bit. The government shutdown obviously furloughs workers, but it shutters data pipelines. We've started to see the news come out, specifically as it relates to the Fed reporting. They're going to have to rely on older data. Agencies will stop reporting. They'll get no jobs data, no unemployment data, no inflation CPI or PPI data, no housing stats. How can you effectively run your business when something like this happens? Lenders, appraisers, developers, we just saw the massive amount of capital flooding into the real estate market. Can these folks make the right informed decisions with a government shutdown? Or am I overplaying this? Am I giving the government and their data too much credit?
It's going to be a great A/B test to see how much the private markets depend on what they get out of the government. There's a whole contingency of people that feel the government is wildly behind. The markets tend to be ahead, even just how actual rates of the different products that lenders sell are being set. We're seeing some deviation from the overnight rates that the Fed sets. Job numbers, the market tends to move before they're officially published. Even the fact that a lot of people move off of ADP reports rather than the official government reports. I think it's going to be a good indication. And look, we had some fits and starts with government shutdowns, I believe, back in 2018. There is some historical precedent for it. But I think what's different this time is the OMB guy who worked for Trump in the first administration. I forget his name, but the Journal just had a big article about this. He apparently is, he believes the shutdown gives him an immense amount of power to downsize the federal government. So we could be coming out of this shutdown leaner and meaner if he gets his way. Now I'm sure he'll get tied up in court hearings and all that stuff, but this is a pivotal moment for sure.
I think the concept of just a government shutdown is just fascinating as a whole. As we think about, like, okay, we're going through 2026 planning. Let's balance the budget. Let's take a look at the budget for next year. And if we don't agree, we're not going to work. Ooh, we got to bleep that out. Excuse me. We're not going to work.
You keep getting a shadow banned with your foul language.
Foul language. Just shocked that, hey, let's disagree on the budget. And you know what? We're going to shut it down. We're going to shut it down. The concept is fascinating to me. I don't understand how in a society we still can just have such a thing as a government shutdown, but it's above me. Obviously, it's well above me. It's not above you. Okay, let's move to AI. Let's go to AI. Fascinating stories this week. We've talked a little bit about this. AI is going to change it's changing LA. It's changing the entertainment industry.
Big time.
Which is wild, mostly from a content generation, which I thought was going to just be like cartoons and I guess all that sort of stuff. We saw AI generated K-pop stars. We've talked about that one. We now have a fully generated AI actress created by an AI.
Tilly Norwood, enter stage left.
Tilly Norwood. Tilly. I don't
Norwood.
get the name. I don't understand it. She
already has dude.
She already has credits to her name. It's got Hollywood in absolute panic mode. It's got it in uproar. It's got it in pushback. SAG-AFTRA is coming out. Big names are joining the criticism. I don't get it. I think everybody needs to hop on the wagon here. Again, this is going to be a scary time, I think, as a lot of people pour money into it. We know that there's trillions of dollars going into artificial intelligence data centers. Are we going to see the large contracts that like Marky Mark and Lucky Leo and all those actors get? They're just going to go to these AI agencies and Tilly. Like, who the hell gets the vig on Tilly? Just a creator? I don't know.
So I read a little bit about this. First off, let's start with. Oh yeah, I read about Tilly. So first off, love how they handled this. The AI talent studio, which I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, it's XICO. I don't know how to say that. That's stupid. But everything else I like. It's a division of Particle 6, so we'll just go with Particle 6. They didn't come out with what I would have expected, which is like a Margot Robbie, like absolute drop dead gorgeous actress.
Bombshell.
Tilly's got a real girl next door vibe to her. So it was subtle. There was a certain elegance in how Particle 6 thought of it. So respect that move big time. Really, really tasteful. Thought that was great. I was a little confused that they're talking about getting in.
She's a brunette. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Tilly.
They're talking about getting like a traditional agency rep. And I'm like, all right, if you're going to disrupt the actor thing, why are you doing everything else the traditional fashion? So I was a little confused.
They want the money. They want the money the old fashioned way.
Yeah, but why? The whole thing feels somewhat antiquated with these gatekeepers and such. Typically, the agent negotiates on behalf of the actor because the actor doesn't know their ass from their elbow and negotiating. My guess is
foul language.
Yeah. No, I think we can say that. Tilly, as an AI, probably has some chops on negotiating her contract. So I thought that was a little surprising. I do feel compelled to give a shout out to our other co-founder, Kevin McCarthy. Thoughts with Kevin, since he is a SAG card carrying member. He was a child actor who got caught up like most child actor stories go. They get into acting at such a young age. They're exposed to all this stuff that can pull you down the wrong path. Kevin has just gone deep down the path of building technology for commercial real estate, which that's just one of those stories.
And he was in a show or commercial with Lindsay Lohan, who went the other way. She
That's
didn't
right.
get
Yeah, and look at her; she's doing great.
issues.
Yeah, but she's fine now. People pick it for her, I think, or was that Britney Spears? I'm probably mixing them up. But either way,
Big fan of both.
like just everybody send a note to Kev, make sure he's doing all right, because this has got to be a scary time. We have big names like Emily Blunt and Whoopi Goldberg, saying that it's really, really scary and taking away our human connection. I do think it's a little ironic that probably this bubble of superstars is totally fine with the job disruption and displacement for all the stuff that they get throughout their daily lives that make their lives very easy. But once it's their job, hold the phone. Can't let the actors feel the impacts of technology. So hopefully we don't need to make this an us versus them situation. Hopefully they can see, why some other people from the country may have been upset.
She looks like a real person.
Tilly.
So what if you look like her? Like what if the AI generation took influence from someone's? Yeah. What if you look like her? Can you sue for copyright infringement on your face? I would love to see somebody generate an AI that looks like me. Probably not going to happen. But
this is what our Albanian friends got wrong with their minister. They didn't. It should have been more like Tilly. Tilly is a friendly face.
Tilly's a friendly face. Where to fall?
Yella could learn a lot from Tilly.
Yella. That's the third episode in a row we've mentioned the Albanian AI minister. Not successful AI actresses and AI K-pop stars. Likely very successful. Last AI story before we get to one more bit of news. This one is fascinating. Absolutely loved this one. One of the constant talks about artificial intelligence and the robot world. The largest job class that will be disrupted is what? Drivers. Freight drivers, truck drivers, taxi drivers, whatever it may be. Any kind of drivers, maybe not, because this is an interesting one, because, it's way safer, right, to not get drunk and get behind the wheel. Obviously, just take an Uber with somebody who's not drunk. However, or you could take a robot car. Waymo saw a little sting op going on right now. What are those things called? The drunk driving sting ops? Sobriety checkpoint. Waymo, not driven by anybody, saw a sobriety checkpoint, tried to bang an illegal U-turn, and the cops pulled him over. Cops pulled the Waymo over and issued them a ticket with no person driving.
This is your classic, he said, AI said. AI is saying that it wasn't illegal. It was totally compliant. And the cops, he or she, are saying it was illegal. So we're going to need to see the footage. We're going to have to see who's telling the truth here. This is going to be I think this is going to be a whole new area for our lawyers to lawyer. The word of the human versus the word of the AI.
And then what happens when the AI is a movie star like Tilly?
Come on. Tilly, the rules of the road don't apply to Tilly.
I wish they did.
She's already a star.
She's a star. She's got credits to her name. Speaking of stars, one more bit of news this week. We got two more bits of news this week. They're absolutely fascinating. One more bit of news this week. We love talking about movies and pop culture. I don't know where this is going. I don't know what's going to happen in the sequel. The Social Network 2 gets a release date. The Social Network 2 is happening. The Social Network 1, talking about Facebook, fascinating. What's cool? What was this? What's cool? 1 million users. What's cool? 100 million users. Or what was that line by Justin Timberlake? What was that? I butchered it. What was it? Go ahead.
a million isn't cool when he's talking about money. He goes, a billion. Justin Timberlake playing Sean Parker, the guy who got Zuckerberg into Silicon Valley. He said, a billion is cool. And then he struts out. And all I could picture was the actual faces of Zuckerberg and Sean Parker compared to whatever that little dude who played versus
As a
Justin
movie
Timberlake.
star,
When
dude.
Justin Timberlake said a billion's cool, I was like, that was cool. I guarantee you it wasn't this cool the way it happened. Like, it just, no way.
Aaron Sorkin's back with it. The sequel. It's titled The Social Reckoning. It's going to premiere in 2026. Cast includes Jeremy Strong, Jeremy Allen White, Mikey Madison, Bill Burr. Bill Burr's an interesting guy. What do you think they're gonna just talk about how much money Zuck has? What the hell are they gonna do? What are they gonna
I'm a big Jeremy. So they're swapping out that little dude for Jeremy Strong from Succession. So Jeremy Strong is a phenomenal actor, but he doesn't look anything like Zuckerberg. So we'll see how that transformation goes. I could not be less interested in a sequel. They're gonna way hype up Frances Haugen, who was the whistleblower.
Yeah, apparently it's not a great story. It's not about Zuck riding his surfboard.
It's not even gonna be a remotely balanced take. It's gonna be like Zuck
Let's attack him.
Like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. This feels like Sorkin should bring back The West Wing. That's what he should do.
There we go. Absolute hit.
I mean, that'd be a very different show today.
That would be a different show today. He should do The West Wing Trump. Wow. That would be good. Second bit of news this week. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. McDonald's, which we talked about. Did you know? Let's see if you were listening. How many McDonald's are there?
14,000.
There we go. He was listening at the top of the show. Good callback. McDonald's Monopoly is back. Love this game. When you think of your childhood, you know what I mean? Just like begging your parents, maybe you didn't do this, I did, to go to McDonald's to peel back the little stickers. You put it on the Monopoly board. It's coming back. The cultural phenomenon of the 90s and 2000s, they're bringing Monopoly back. A lot of changes, though. A lot of changes because it was ripped off. A lot of people stole some money. They hacked the system. There's digital tokens. They're coming back. I don't know if there's AI-generated stuff in this one. But is this not some nostalgia here for you, man?
And on the one side, I couldn't be more excited. I was, I think, middle school, maybe high school, when this was at its height. And I just remember getting so excited and jacked up to get those Monopoly pieces. So I can't wait to, frankly, like, I'm going to be going and doing it. But on the other hand, the Sorkin should be making they did make a documentary about the chief of security for McDonald's, the guy who hacked it and stole the money which apparently it was with the mafia. You have in the notes here. I didn't know that. They did make a docu on that I think is fascinating. But what a dystopian program. Like, you get these you buy a hamburger and you get a digital coin. That feels like one of the books they made us read in middle school. But I won't go there today because I'm in a good mood. So I'm just going to say I love this. What's
your problem with McDonald's?
My problem is not with McDonald's.
It's garbage food.
We're gamifying garbage food to, like, at this shot of affluence.
Feed the kids
like,
garbage.
Feels like a Black Mirror episode.
Feed the kids garbage. Any way to incentivize them to go eat the trash that's there.
Yeah, it feels like a Black Mirror episode. It's creepy.
I don't know, man. I like that snack wrap.
I can't wait to see what RFK has to say about this gamifying bad food. He can't be psyched. But Trump loves McDonald's, so there's going to be a real.
That's the thing. Didn't he have that as like one of the major dinners when one of the sports team came? He had like a bunch of catered Big Macs or whatever.
It's going to be a real rift between those two.
All right, little bit of a recap. Today, great show. This was episode 11. Thanks, Justin, for sticking around and teaching us how to use the software again. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about capital coming in. We talked about the casino updates. We talked about the Fed government shutdown. We talked about PropTech. We talked about AI-generated actresses and their takeover in the entertainment industry. Most importantly, we talked about Strata. We got coming up October 16th, going to be a massive event. It's a couple of weeks away. sign up. Don't miss out. We're about to close registration. We got a couple of sneaky, really cool activations that we haven't announced that are going to be both at the reception on the 15th and on the 16th. Again, a couple of weeks out. Click the link in the show notes and come check it out.